programme is brought to you by Amstel Beer, an official sponsor of the UEFA Champions League. Glasgow Rangers never answered their wake-up call. They've been a disappointment in the Champions League play, and they're still searching for their first victory after 4 defeats. Grasshopper are the leaders in Group A. A win should be enough to send them through, but a loss and the race stays wide open. Welcome to Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow today. Glasgow Rangers against Grasshopper Zurich. Along with Seamus Mullen, I'm Mike Hill. Seamus, Glasgow Rangers have been a major disappointment, but for Grasshoppers, they've been a big surprise.
Well, before the season, all the talk was that this was the year Rangers are finally going to do well in Europe, and here they are, the only team without a point in the entire group in the Champions League. And Grasshoppers, rank outsiders, now a chance to win Group A.
There's Rangers, 4 matches played, 4 losses. Their last loss here, of course, against Ajax on match day 4. As for Grasshoppers, well, they have really been a major surprise. They started off with a couple of big wins, that one over Glasgow Rangers, and then beating Ajax. That surprised everybody. They won last time out against the French champions, Auxerre. Both of these sides, in fact, are qualifiers for this group. The two favourites, of course, the two seeded teams are Auxerre and Ajax, but there are Grasshoppers right on top of the group and in a really good position to go through to the quarterfinals, and that, as I said, would be a major surprise. The Glasgow Rangers tonight, they are playing for pride, roared on by a good-sized crowd here on a bitterly cold night. The teams are on their way out to the pitch. When we return, we'll check the lineups. We'll have the first half kick-off.
The power it thrills. The speed and spills are all on ESPN's Motor World. Tune in every week for an in-depth look at the fast-paced world of motorcycle racing. Get up to date with all the latest on the track and off-road. Motor World is your ticket to the coolest sport on 2 wheels. Motor World, every week only on ESPN.
Bringing you the best in international sports news, it's ESPN Sports Center International Edition, with highlights, scores, and the latest news in sports from around the world. Don't miss Sports Center International Edition, every morning, 7 days a week, only on ESPN.
Welcome back then to Ibrox Stadium here in Glasgow. Glasgow Rangers against Grasshoppers from Group A of the UEFA Champions League. Well, as we said, Glasgow Rangers have really been struggling in European competition, still looking for their first win. But of course, that's not the case here in Scotland, where they are the league leaders after down in Celtic last week in the Old Firm derby. Always seem to do well in Scotland, but they can't just take it overseas.
That's right, it's pretty much a 2-team race in Scotland, Aberdeen trailing badly, and an amazing event in Rangers Celtic last week. Both sides missing a penalty. I think it was Gascoigne missing for Rangers and Van Hooydonk for Celtic. Rangers still seem to have Celtic's number.
Grasshoppers of Zurich are second behind Neuchâtel in Switzerland, 4 points behind. Grasshoppers, though, concentrating very much at this stage of the season on their European campaign. They really are the big surprise. Alan McCoist, who will lead the Glasgow Rangers attack, and he in fact is one of 6 changes in the side that lost 1-0 to Ajax last time out. They do regain a number of players back from suspension, but they've lost Brian Laudrup and also the Swedish international Borklund both out, in fact, through hamstring injuries. So this is a different-looking Rangers side. As for Grasshoppers, well, they lose Moldovan and Yakin. Moldovan scored a couple of goals last time out. They are both suspended, so there's a couple of changes in their lineup. The players coming in, the number 8, the Swiss international Alessandro Conoscetti, and the other player coming in is Magnin. Now, referee is from Hungary, that's Laszlo Vagner. Both linesmen also from Hungary. It is a bitterly cold night in Glasgow, as Grasshoppers in the change strip of the yellow shirts and the blue shorts. Glasgow Rangers in their famous royal blue shirts and white shorts. A bitterly cold night in Glasgow. But it's a real tribute to the supporters here that so many have turned out as Grasshoppers get us underway. They are attacking the goal to our right in the first half. And as we were saying, it really is cold. It's -3 degrees Celsius. The forecast there, it's going to be a clear night, no rain. And the field itself, as usual here at Ibrox, is in magnificent condition.
Well, there has been snow in the area. In fact, it was snowing yesterday in Glasgow, but the playing surface has been covered and is, as you say, in excellent condition for this match.
Myers, who really tormented Glasgow Rangers in match day 1. Trying the shot that time that came off of Bottom on the far side.
Well, much will be expected of him in the absence of Moldovan and Yakin, because in the 19 games in which Grasshoppers have scored this season, in 16 of those matches, goals have come from Yakin and Moldovan. So they clearly are two critical players up front. So Turkilmaz will have his work cut out for him, along with his front runner, Magnin.
Walter Smith, the manager of Glasgow Rangers, who's come out of his sick bag, in fact, to watch this game. He's over to South America, to Chile, in fact. Rangers trying to sign Sebastian Rosenthal, the Chilean international. As this one comes in, punched away there by Gorham. And now the shot coming in, and Gorham back on his line, taking that one safely. Turkilmaz was the player that was testing the Rangers goalkeeper early. As McQuaist is bundled down. McQuaist, veteran, this Glasgow Rangers side at 34 years old. 352 goals for Glasgow Rangers in first-class matches. He's been such a great servant for the club.
And just about finishing up, I should think, his Scotland career. He did play for 5 minutes in the World Cup match recently, in the 1-0 victory over Sweden, but he was the only Rangers player who saw action in that match.
The Rangers have scoured the globe as they try to get talent to put the team together that can actually challenge in Europe. I'm saying Sebastian Rosenthal now high on their shopping list, as that one is played back by Richard Goff. Now Petric. Ball forward there, looking for David Robertson. Throw for Glasgow Rangers. And Robertson taking it short. And back into midfield. Petric. Petric there with the misdirected pass. Christian Gross, former player, of course, at Grasshoppers, took over as the manager in July of 1993.
It is amazing the difference between these two clubs in terms of their impact in their country. Rangers, of course, doing so well in the last 8 years, winning the league, getting terrific crowds now in this beautiful new stadium. And Grasshoppers used to playing before about 7,500 or 8,000 people. Quite a contrast, but on the field, Grasshoppers obviously with a tremendous record this year.
Now that time as the Rangers get a free kick. As Glasgow Rangers really dominating Scottish football. 46 times they've been the league champions. And in fact on Sunday we'll play in the final of the Scottish League Cup. They take on Heart of Midlothian. That game to be played on the other side of Glasgow at Celtic Park. As the challenge coming in there. referee stepping in very quickly.
Charlie Miller coming in here from the back. And down goes Magnin.
Pick then for Grasshopper.
Interesting, nobody on the Rangers side playing with any yellow cards, as we thought maybe there might be one there and in the previous event, whereas Grasshoppers have 5 players who are playing on yellows at the moment.
Challenge up in the back there from Richard Goff. In fact, he was born in South Africa. 61 appearances for Scotland. Andy Gorham. I'm sure he's got a good view of this. Andy Gorham was quite a useful cricketer as well. Devoting all his time to football. Now Turkumaz. Trying to step away from that challenge to make the angle for the shot. It's charged down. Rangers coming out quickly. Zubabula, the Grasshopper keeper there, out of his goal. As Grasshoppers continue to try to put on this early pressure. This time for Rangers.
Well, you hear all these crowd cheers for these challenges by Rangers players. There's still at times in the mentality, it seems to me, of Scottish fans or British fans in general, that if you just tackle hard some of these foreign players, they won't want to know about it after a while. And frankly, that era has passed, it seems to me. The players from continental Europe are every bit as strong and tough and physical now as players from the British Isles, and it seems to me you have to have a little bit more than just a good physical challenge to beat them.
Wilson. Whipped across that time by Robertson, easily cut out. Alberts. Who joined at the start of the season from Germany. The Grasshoppers players wearing gloves. It's this bitterly cold night. And across. Nice one-touch layoff there. Cleland on the far side. He's dispossessed there by Max Glenn. And the Grasshoppers now coming forward. Challenge from Craig Moore. And the Australian international gets a yellow card. Craig Moore, in fact, who missed the last game because of suspension.
Well, this is the second time Magnin, the third time Magnin has gone down. And you can see beautifully from that replay that Magnin had touched the ball away and that the tackle from the back and the side by Craig Moore was indeed a bad foul. So he draws him the first yellow in the 7th minute. So much for Rangers playing with no yellows. Now, out of the 16 or 17 players here, there's the first yellow.
He's it into the box. Here's Turkumaz. Away from his marker that time. And Glenn just trying to play that one across, away by Moore. Craig Moore, who was captain of the Australian World Youth Championship side in 1993. Actually had the opportunity of either joining Arsenal or Liverpool, but was advised by the Australian national coach at that time, Eddie Thompson, to accept the offer from Glasgow Rangers. Now Goff. Stepping in that time was Van Vossen. Grasshoppers again breaking forward quickly. This is Tula on the overlap. Good safe handling there from Andy Gorham. With a good run down that left wing channel by Pascal Tula.
Turkumaz up front creating a lot of trouble now for the youngster Scott Wilson from Rangers, who looks like he has drifted into his zone quite a bit, or his part of the defense, and that'll be a terrific challenge for young Wilson.
Only his second first team appearance. In fact, his first appearance in the first team was on in the last match day in the Champions League. Never played though in the first team in a Scottish league match. This is his second appearance in the Champions League. Throw now for Rangers.
Well, there you see Turkumaz. Look at all the space there as he has plenty of time to play this ball off. but good goalkeeping here by Gorham, who comes off his line intelligently and just cuts that one out. But they cannot afford to allow Turkey Yilmaz that much space on the ball to be able to turn, shoot on goal, or spray passes to players breaking around him, as was the case that time from Lombardo.
Just joining us, this is UEFA Champions League match day 5. We're coming to you from Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow, where Glasgow Rangers and Grasshoppers of Zurich are tied at 0-0 as we come up towards the 10-minute mark in this first half. With Seamus Mullen, I'm Mike Hill. And Glasgow Rangers looking for their first Champions League points of the season. 4 matches played, 4 losses. They're going to try to find a way past that goalkeeper, Pascal Zubabula.
And they need to do better than Peter van Vossen just did with that bad first touch on the good pass from David Robertson. Van Vossen had something of a disappointing season last year for Rangers in his first appearance.
Peter van Vossen is a player who's promised so much over the years and never quite delivered it, certainly in a goal-scoring sense. Grasshoppers. It's the full width of the pitch. Trying to stretch this Rangers side. Turkey was very uncomplimentary to them after the first game in Zurich, saying that Rangers arrived as a bunch of tourists and upset a lot of the Rangers players, but perhaps he was right in the end because Grasshoppers won 3-0. There's no capacity crowd here tonight at Ibrox, but the Rangers faithful have turned out, certainly in good voice at the moment and trying to get behind their team.
And Rangers have given up a lot of the ball, Mike, just over the halfway line from really poor quality touches on good passes through to them. And that's really telling you a little bit of the difference between these sides in terms of technique. It ought not to be the case, but after all, Rangers do have a lot of players out injured and suspended today. Or not suspended, but certainly out injured.
They've got a very big squad as Rangers are now going to get a free kick. Going down that time was Peter van Vossen.
Well, not much question about that one either from the back. The referee, I think, establishing a good tone here, allowing nothing to go. He's given out one well-chosen yellow, and so far it's been a well-played match from the physical standpoint.
Burt plays it wide. From Glasgow Rangers, not quite reaching their man. All the way, as you said, much too easily.
Much too easily, and either ill-chosen passes or poorly struck passes or poorly received passes. And that's simply not good enough for this standard.
That time, looking for Turkey Yilmaz. The player who got in was Petric.
Well, he's caught the disease too. He gives a sloppy, lazy pass. That's very easily picked off.
For our viewers in Latin America, Serie A football this week, the live game, Vicenza, the big surprise team, second in Serie A against Reggiana. And you'll be able to see that here live on Sunday. That's for our viewers in Latin America. Here in the Champions League, we're still looking for our first goal in this Group A encounter. Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshoppers Zurich 0. Richard Goff, one of the players who's come into the lineup tonight, back from suspension.
Hesitation there and just trying to get the ball out of their own end, but no easy targets up front for them to find.
Challenge that time, and Rangers now can come forward. This is Dave Robertson. Surging through from midfield that time was Craig Moore, and the ball played wide. best of crosses. Now it comes loose, the shot is blocked. The Ibrox Roar trying to encourage the home side.
Well, the ball fell very nicely for Alex Cleland, the number 2 player, way over that far side. And you wonder if it had been any other player but Alex Cleland, perhaps a more polished finisher, that ball might have been in the back of the Grasshoppers' net.
Moore wins that challenge. Now Van Vossen. No way past Max Gren. And the challenge there from Scott Wilson.
And once again on Magnine, who's really taking a pounding in this first 15 minutes of this match. Here's Magnine. You see this late challenge coming in. Very untidy, rough, tough challenge from Wilson.
No booking for the young defender. Talking to from the Hungarian referee. Nice reverse ball. Magnine into the penalty area. And the goal kick is signalled. Smith, I wonder if he's trying to buy some more players.
That's what I say. If he's calling Chile, it's a bit late at this point. And assumes that there's somebody higher up in the stands getting a better view from on top of you. I often wondered about this. I mean, the managers sit down there at field level, and it's probably some of the worst view you could possibly get of a match. You really do have to have some height, have somebody looking down and seeing where the openings are, who's not moving properly, and so forth.
In fact, Walker Smith is the one who's in the stand, and it's Archie Knox who's right down on the touchline. Here's Turkumaz. Turkumaz again. Challenge coming in from Van Vossen. More tidying up all the way back to Gorham. Archie Knox, the assistant manager at Glasgow Rangers. Rangers up to the halfway line. This is the area of the field where they've been guilty of giving the ball away so often in this match. Robertson. Just as you say that, he hits it straight to an opponent.
Yeah, a sort of a misread piece of attacking play as the Rangers players up front had started to drift to the left here, and then Robertson simply played it into the space that they had left, and nobody had run in to help him out. So it's a very uncoordinated kind of attacking style at the moment from Rangers. They look pretty good at the back, and they look okay coming up to midfield, but once at midfield it all comes apart.
Twice bundled down that time. So it'll be another free kick.
Well, Ali McCoist, despite his age, still draws a lot of respect as Mats Gren, the veteran Swedish player, plows into him from behind.
Never scored a goal in the Champions League. Ali McCoist, of course, did score 4 goals in the qualifying round for this season's Champions League when Glasgow Rangers overcame the Russian champions, Alania Vladikavkaz. 10-3 on aggregate. That really was a major surprise.
And I think he scored Scotland's only goal in Euro 96 when they beat Switzerland 1-0.
It's that time missing out for Rangers. Now here come Grasshoppers again, tracking down this near touchline. This is Bernd Haas, 18 years old. One of the youngsters that's come through and really established himself in the first team for Grasshoppers this season. Rangers captain there, Richard Goff. There's the youngster we were talking about, just 18 years old. Already made his international debut for Switzerland as well. Time to measure the cross. She does to the far post. And Turkumaz there trying to hit that one rather spectacularly. Missing it completely. Opportunity now for Rangers to break forward. Van Vossen, easily dispossessed. Now Turkumaz. He's the judge. Been offside.
Well, Peter Van Vossen, as we look at Turkumaz here, who's again trying to do a number as best he can on Scott Wilson. At the other end, Van Vossen now, Mike, in the last 3 possessions he's had, he's tried to beat a player in midfield on a one-on-one dribbling situation, and he's looked very inadequate at trying to do so, and has, as a result, cuffed up possession to Grasshoppers in a dangerous counter-attacking part of the park.
It's a different scenario for Glasgow Rangers players playing against Grasshoppers than playing their weekly toil in the Scottish Premier League. Let's be honest, they perhaps get 4 hard matches a year, and that's always against Celtic, and that's about it for the season. Well, the big match in Holland this week, the big match of the season, Feyenoord against Ajax. Those 2 teams, you knew their rivalry, and you'll be able to see it here on Sunday. That's Dutch football, Feyenoord against Ajax. They don't come any bigger than that.
Ajax still trying to get untracked in the Dutch First Division. Started to look good, but then came apart on Sunday last against NAC Breda, losing 2-0. One of those goals coming from Ernie Stewart, the American international.
The other one came from Tony Vidmar, the Australian international. As Turkumaz there trying the shot. Takes a ricochet and goes away for a corner. Right, Tagore involved in group A match today against Auxerre. And you'll be able to see here later on ESPN. It's also from this group. Grasshoppers with the corner to the near post, straight up in the air is the clearance and out of play. So another throw for Grasshoppers. Who will take the long throw. Max Gren has gone forward. Back header there from the Grasshopper captain, and the shot coming in, and a great save from Gorham. Well, the shot there from the edge of the penalty area for a crowd of players, and Andy Gorham reacted so well. You must have seen it very late. And he's the hero at the moment for Glasgow Rangers.
Well, it was a loose header coming out in the first place from the Rangers defence that made that ball available. And a very, very quick snapping volley on goal. I think it was Comasetti. But Gorham made a wonderful save. Now we'll see the replay here. Watch this flick on first by the Grasshoppers player. Now this loose header comes down, and there you see it was Comasetti coming in. But the header coming out is not a very good one, and it is placed right into Comasetti's stride. He doesn't have a chance to trap it. It was Craig Moore's header that was headed down and into the center. If you're going to head the ball down, you've got to better head it wide. If you're going to try to clear centrally, you ought to clear high, so the ball takes a while to get down. But good marks for Comasetti, and it's a sparkling save by Andy Gorham.
With the high ball forward. Now Van Vossen. And the defender there making a quick recovery. That was Tula. Passed a late fitness test to play in this game. He got a knock at the weekend. He was doubtful, but in the fitness test this afternoon, came through with flying colours. As Gordon Petric goes forward. Throw comes in. And pushing there by Petric.
Yeah, Petric all over Mats Gren as Mats Gren rose to win the header, but under physical attention from this man, Petric, as you'll see in the replay, still manages to win it, but Petric very much all over him with his left arm and pushing.
Petric, one of the foreign contingent at Glasgow Rangers, a Yugoslav international, as he clears that one away.
Well, Grasshoppers haven't really established much of their rhythm either. Let's see if they get some passes strung together here. Nope.
They'll push through, but easy pickings that time for Andy Gorham. is the UEFA Champions League on ESPN, match day 5. And from Group A, it's Glasgow Rangers against Grasshopper Zurich. Just over 24 minutes gone in the first half. We're still awaiting the first goal with Seamus Mullen. I'm Mike Hill. Neither side really, Seamus, in those first 24 minutes has got a pattern to their play, has really established any kind of rhythm.
No, they really haven't, and one of the things that's interesting is that both of them seem unwilling to bring any players forward from the back. You don't see Haas or Tula coming forward too much. Haas maybe once or twice, but certainly Cleland and Robertson are not making the kind of forays down the flanks that we would have expected, given the fact that, especially that Rangers play 5 at the back, with therefore 2 wide players free to come forward quite liberally, and they haven't been doing much of that.
Under pressure there by Ali McCoist, and a hurried clearance which goes out of play.
Well, he made it rather difficult for himself, didn't he, with the first touch, flicking it to one side and making the angle even more difficult to do anything but put it into the stands, which is what he accomplished.
Roberts. Now Petric. Robertson. And Craig Moore, he's quickly closed down. The throw should go for Glasgow Rangers, which Moore takes quickly. Grasshoppers again able to hook the ball clear. Off is penalised for going into the back of Jerkimas. Free kick taken short. Spijanic. Clearance there, charged down, but no trouble there for Grasshoppers. Both sides at this stage guilty of very poor passing. It's not going to make Walter Smith feel any better.
Well, Rangers certainly missing Laudrup and Bjorklund, not to mention Dury and McCall and Durant. I mean, these are tough players to replace, and even though they have gone out and signed some good quality players, there's not kind of a match winner or a take charge person out there at the moment.
Comasetti. Cleland was the player coming back. He has to concede the corner. It's Cleland who came to Rangers from Dundee United. Position now on the near post. Now for Grasshoppers, spend a lot of time in the training field in these set plays. Max Glenn, the captain, has gone forward. Gorham will be very used to handling those high crosses, playing in Scottish football week in, week out. Now Van Vossen, opportunity to use his pace. Cleland on the overlap, and Van Vossen, well, the pass, you can call it that, straight to the opposition there, Max Glenn.
Well, what a shame for Rangers, because Jörg Alberts at the back was just immaculate in his calm play out of traffic, getting that attack going from the penalty area. He just didn't whack it forward. He dribbled a defender and pushed a beautiful weighted ball out, and that started the whole thing to Van Vossen. But I've got to express continued disappointment with Van Vossen's play, with all that time and all that space. To come up with such an inadequate crossing pass as he did at the end is pretty poor testimony to a player who's had a lot of international experience.
Yes, he's played over in Belgium with Beveren and with Mechelen. Also played in Holland with Ajax, his former club before joining Glasgow Rangers. In fact, was Trabzonspor of Turkey. Forward that time for Albert. He's made a couple of appearances for Germany in his days at Hamburg. Started off his career at Oldham in England. Goff. Hurts again. Turning into trouble. In his defence, though, there was not really any more options open for him, was there?
No, exactly. When he started into that little dribble, I thought, well, this is enterprising. He's got not many options, and he almost got away with it. But it is dangerous, again, to get stripped of the ball in center circle with some attacking possibilities for the other team guaranteed. Although I have to say the Grasshoppers have not capitalized on a lot of these takeovers in midfield.
Here's Haas. Away that time from Van Bossen. Now Lombardo. No way forward for him that time. One thing you notice is that the transition game for Glasgow Rangers, when they do stop a Grasshopper's attack, their transition to attack is so slow and very predictable.
Very slow, predictable, and not terribly accurate either. We saw that ball from Richard Goff. It was perhaps a low percentage pass trying to play it across the defense to the far side, but it got nowhere close to being on target.
Christian Goss, the coach at Grasshoppers, knows that the victory here would pretty much assure them of a spot in the quarterfinals. A team who were not even seeded in the Champions League, they had to qualify. They beat Slavia Prague, the champions of the Czech Republic, 5-0 in the first leg at home, and then 1-0 away in Prague to qualify 6-0 on aggregate. And this free kick for Rangers played short, and the shot there half blocked. Charlie Miller trying the shot, but again it was just a little bit in slow motion, wasn't it? It was too much telegraph.
Well, but it was not a bad idea, because it initially looked as though he would whack it hard, but I think the problem came when the ball was played to Charlie Miller, and his first touch was really not very good and didn't help himself out setting it up.
Bert's there with the corner, and Richard Goff with the header. Great save there by Zubabula, the goalkeeper, who had to react quickly.
Well, Richard Goff has gotten some notable goals for Rangers and Scotland with his head, and you'll see he gets the second header here. But a wonderful reflex save by Zubabula frustrates Richard Goff.
Goalkeeper's now got to face a corner from the other side. And Goff again is pushing forward. In swinger this time. Goff again with the header, and McCoist turns it over the crossbar. Well, it came to Ali McCoist so quickly, but Goff again so dangerous in the air.
And Goff getting, look how wide open Goff is. There's absolutely nobody near him, and he does a wonderful job rising to get even a decent heading shot and goal himself, but he spotted McCoist drifting in, opted to play it to him, and there's the first one of Goff's we saw a moment ago going over the top, and then McCoist from Goff also putting over the top. So two good set play opportunities, the best chances of the game, and maybe the best kind of chance that Rangers will have in this game, because their free flow pattern of play has been pretty mediocre.
This is young Scott Wilson. He's played forward, but just drifts out of play on that far side. Throw quickly taken. Zubabula, who joined Grasshoppers on his 20th birthday in 1991. Swiss international now with 3 appearances on the national team. Came off the head of Wilson now. Turklemans trying to slide that one wide.
Richard Goff doing a good job of challenging Turklemans there. He obviously will have all the guile, experience, and physical tenacity. Some of the qualities that young Scott Wilson has yet to develop. There's Scott Wilson on the ball now.
The Rangers with McCoist looking to switch play. Good enough pass that just gave the defender time to get in. More football here on ESPN, the American variety. It's the NFL when the team from Green Bay take on St. Louis. You can see that here on ESPN. The NFL, American football on Sunday. Check your local listings for times. Ball pushed wide that time by Van Bossum. And appeals for a penalty from the crowd as Charlie Miller goes down.
Well, that was better from Van Bossum. He picked out very nicely there. Number 16, Charlie Miller, and Comasetti did seem to nick him there. Let's get a closer look on the second one. No, actually not. Miller almost reaching back in a way to try to effect contact. But Comasetti knew he had done nothing wrong, and the referee saw it that way too.
Awesome. Here's Craig Moore. Rangers now got plenty of players forward if they can play it right. Cleland. Again, a misdirected pass, easily intercepted, but Rangers do get a corner. And their best goal-scoring opportunities in this first half have all come from corner kicks. Richard Goff comes forward again. Petric has also made his way into the penalty area.
Goff has been able to get free in his runs. Let's see if he does this time, though.
Craig Moore at the far post with a header, which is blocked by Comasetti. Another corner for Rangers.
Grasshopper's really having a little bit of luck here because that ball did carom off Comasetti's arm as it was outreaching. And very often the referee will give a penalty for that. But Grasshopper's having a lot of trouble tracking down these runners in the box on corners.
Albert. This time Rangers were able to capitalise on that corner. Easily cleared there by Grasshoppers. Now Rangers can come forward again. And Charlie Miller there with a good run. He was pulled back, but he kept his balance. And the referee acknowledges perhaps the whistle was a bit quick that time.
Absolutely. He should have allowed play to go on. Miller was on a very nice run there and just taken away from him.
So this free kick comes in, the header. And Zumabula again comes up with a big save. And again it was Richard Goff who had gone forward and nobody tracked him back. Nobody was marking him.
Now look how wide open he is again. A nicely struck ball, but look at this. He's got nobody closing in on him. And I'd have to say that given Richard Goff's normal ability to put these chances away, I would have thought he would have done a little bit better with that. It was served up to him beautifully 8 yards from goal. And normally he buries them in the bottom corner or up in the roof of the net. And this one was played right to the center and easy for Zumabula.
This is better play now from Glasgow Rangers. This is Miller.
Well, they're finally pushing players forward from the back. That's been the big difference. They had not been doing that, and they can afford to do it with 5 at the back.
Van Bossum. Cleland now on the far side with the cross. Too high for Albert. This is Craig Moore. Appeals again for handball. Nothing given.
Well, the ball was played right into the player's chest, and let's take a look at this. Here's he rams it into his hand. That's no handball. The player's arms were in front of his body. They were not reaching out in any way that would obstruct it, and the ball was simply played into his hand. It was Lombardo, and there's no question that that's not a foul, not a penalty. Well, a Grasshopper goal under a lot of pressure now, and I have to say, if the heading had been a little bit more accurate by Rangers, they could be up by a couple of goals right now.
It's been their problem. They've only managed 2 goals in 4 matches in the Champions League this season. They've conceded 10. But God hasn't been under too much pressure in this game. But despite all their attention in this first half to attacking, they really haven't looked. Except for when Richard Goff comes forward, as if they're going to break the deadlock and score. Magnin that time.
But Richard Goff there, the player of the match so far for both ends, coming back, getting the touch in and then taking the challenge from Magnin and keeping his calm. Of course, Goff himself had to serve a 1-match suspension recently. Just back after that, getting the second yellow against Ajax in the first Ajax match.
Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow, the venue for this UEFA Champions League match day 5 Group A encounter. And with 39 minutes gone in the first half, Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshoppers Zurich 0. Grasshoppers needing a win to assure a spot in the quarter-finals. Rangers need a win just to restore some pride. They haven't won in the Champions League since they beat Bruges in March of 1993. That's over 3 campaigns without a victory. They're looking to put that right. With Seamus Mullen, I'm Mike Hill, and Rangers have had some chances in this first half. There's nothing coming from set plays.
And you mentioned they've got only 2 goals so far in the Champions League, and actually those 2 goals were scored, Mike, by players who are not on the field tonight. Durant and Gascoigne. Gascoigne sitting out the second of a 4-game suspension for his attempting to kick Winston Bogart in the first Ajax match.
Gascoigne, who missed a penalty in the game against Celtic last week. Really interested spectators here tonight.
Interested and interesting. Never a dull moment when Gascoigne is around, of course, either in the field or he's either on the sports page or the front page, but he's on some page fairly regularly. And of course, in that match which they lost 4-1 to Ajax, they were down 1-0 when he was red carded, and then it all came apart and they lost 4-1. And then, typical of Gascoigne, he turns around a couple of days later and scores a cracking 25-yard goal in the league, and just shows you how frustrating he can be for his own fans.
Rangers now have a free kick for that challenge, as Robinson is the player who goes down. Back onto his feet. Richard Goff has gone forward again. Play it deeper this time. Craig Moore unable to get on the end of it.
Well, and Mats Gren also coming in that time to be sure that his opposite number 4, Richard Goff, did not get the kind of free headers he's been having for the last 10 minutes.
That time on Cleland, which results in a free kick.
Cleland's looked very useful on the last few minutes coming up, hasn't he, Mike? I mean, he's held the ball well. He's had some good passing combinations, and he very nicely played the ball behind the defence there.
And he's giving Rangers some width now on that right-hand side as they attack.
Yeah.
It's also helping to create a bit of space in the centre. Hence, we've seen Goff coming forward now to help out McCoist in that centre-forward channel. Rangers have got 4 players waiting in the penalty area. Alberts is the player most probably who will take it. He does, and he whips this one in, but going for the direct strike on goal, just a bit too high. Alberts, 25 years old, German international. It was rather ambitious. It was always a difficult angle, wasn't it?
It was a difficult angle, and you could see just in the end of that picture Richard Goff shaking his head, sort of disbelieving that they didn't get more out of that opportunity as he went for goal rather than maybe trying to find somebody at the far post. But he went for the upper corner and didn't make it. There's Goff again winning the header. Goff's really having a wonderful match for Rangers tonight.
That time by Scott Wilson. Cleland and the offside flag up.
Well, certainly in midfield, Alberts has done a bit more than Van Vossen. As you see, Alberts go into the middle of his top of the screen there, but there's a very obvious offside against Van Vossen. Van Vossen's had a very loose, indisciplined kind of game, but Alberts has been a good, strong leader in midfield, and Craig Moore has been the good defensive player, although he did draw that yellow card in the 7th minute. But the key is for Rangers is to get some of those players from the back forward. That gives them a totally different shape and more dangerous looking offensive options.
Well, just a reminder to stay with us at half-time. Coming up, we've got highlights of the game between Porto and AC Milan from Group D. We'll also have a look back at the first half highlights of this game. It's coming up at half-time for you here. Champions League coverage of match day 5. with just 60 seconds to go to half-time. Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshopper Zurich 0. Wilson wins that challenge in the air, headed forward by Max Green. And the shot, and Andy Gorham just policed that one as it goes past the post. Magnin, when he's not playing football, is an electrician, showing plenty of spark that time.
Well, this is a good chance for him. Again, he gets a little bit of space, does not strike the ball very well. He is the player, you recall, who was treated so physically in the first 10 minutes or so. But he's used to that. In fact, he had several stitches in his head after a recent match in the Swiss League against FC Zurich.
Overlapping run that time by Tula, but the ball delivered to him wasn't accurate and out of play for a throw on the far side. As we enter stoppage time at the end of the first half, I think there'd be too much of that. Neither side has had the trainer on. And Grasshoppers putting this one through, and the offside flag up, and that was a very close decision. Clemens just missed time in his run that time.
Well, and Rangers badly outsmarted by Antonio Esposito in that wonderful turn at the top of the box. And fortunate to get the offside decision there. And here's another offside at the other end.
McCoist was the player who was adjudged to have been called offside. Grasshoppers in a hurry to get this ball back into play. Zubagula way over this penalty area to take this free kick, just lofting it forward. As the half-time whistle goes, the first half that Richard Gough has come the closest to breaking the deadlock for Glasgow Rangers. Under McCoist that has caused a few problems up front. And neither of the strikers from either side, where Turklemaz for Grasshoppers has looked exceptionally good, have been able to break the deadlock. Half-time then here at Ibrox, Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshoppers Zurich 0. We'll be back with more after this.
Lo primero que me cautivó fue su físico. Lo que me enamoró fue su carácter. Él tiene su lado enigmático. Lo estoy descubriendo poco a poco y cada vez me gusta más.
Johnny Walker Black Label. Mientras más lo descubres, más lo deseas.
They speak different languages. They have different histories, customs, and beliefs. To respect a country is to treasure what makes it unique. As one of the world's largest petroleum companies, Chevron has established close partnerships with more than 70 nations, honoring the cultures that distinguish them and the commitment we've made to them. Chevron, the symbol of partnership.
Comunicaciones para unir a la gente. AT&T, el punto de encuentro de todo el mundo.
The UEFA Champions League continues here on ESPN. Immediately following our game, it's Ajax against Auxerre. Another game from Group A, and this one really another vital game. For the loser of this game, it could really be curtains this year. Group A so tightly contested. And then more action as we go to Group B. Vitesse Wuzh against Borussia Dortmund, the German champions. Dortmund, one of the leaders in that group. Vitesse Wuzh know they have to win this to have any chance of qualifying for the quarter-finals. And the same could be said for the game between Steaua Bucharest and Atletico Madrid. Steaua Bucharest know that they've got to win this to keep their quarter-final hopes alive. Champions League continuing here on ESPN. More action from matchday 5. Back here at Ibrox Stadium at half-time in this Group A encounter, Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshopper Zurich 0. When we return, a look at highlights of Porto and AC Milan.
Ericsson, perfecting the art of communication for over 120 years. Ericsson, leading the world in digital cellular technology.
Y ahora nuestra siguiente finalista. Señorita, ¿qué marca de neumáticos tiene su auto?
Uno solo se acuerda de sus llantas cuando dan problemas. Y como ella trae Goodyear, no se acuerda. En Goodyear, probamos constantemente nuestras llantas para que usted maneje más seguro. Y como ella, pueda olvidarse de sus llantas. No piense en llantas, piense en Goodyear.
ESPN's coverage of the ATP Tour continues. From Hanover, Germany, it's the 1996 ATP Tour World Championship. Catch the climax of a spectacular 96 season as the top 8 players in the world battle it out to be crowned King of the Court. It's all come down to this, the ATP Tour World Championship. Day 4, Friday on ESPN.
Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow, where at half-time in this Group A match of the Champions League, it's Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshoppers Zurich 0. Well, let's now cross to Portugal, to Oporto, for highlights of the game from Group D. Porto, the one team who are already assured of a spot in the quarterfinals, taking on AC Milan. Big crowd on hand. And in the first half, 15 minutes gone, great opportunity this for Porto.
It was a super opportunity for Archer, who does well to get the shot off, hits the post, and then Bino can't close on the ball fast enough to squeeze the rebound past Rossi. But Archer was frustrated throughout this match.
So 0-0 at half-time, into the second half. In the 56th minute, Edgar Davids.
One of the great classic goals of the Champions League this year, served nicely by Weah and polished with great panache by Davids. And then the tying goal at the other end, a loose ball played into the box from the corner. Not very good marking, and Edmilson just seizes on the loose one and whacks it in for the tying goal.
So that tied it up, and that's how it stayed at the end of 90 minutes. It was Porto 1, AC Milan 1. AC Milan still will need a result in their last match to go through to the quarterfinals. Porto, though, now in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Some ugly incidents, in fact, at the end of that game involving George Weah and George Costa, who had a running battle throughout the game. They continued on in the tunnel to the dressing room after the game. Other results then from Group C. Manchester United lose again at Old Trafford, and Juventus assure themselves a spot now in the Champions League quarterfinals. Manchester United are going to have to sweat and get a result on match day 6 when they take on Rapid Vienna. Back here at Ibrox Stadium, after 45 minutes, there is still no score. Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshoppers Zurich 0. When we return, a look back at first half highlights.
Bud. Bud.
Why?
Bud.
Why?
Bud.
Wise.
Bud.
Wise.
Ericsson, perfecting the art of communication for over 120 years. Ericsson, leading the world in digital cellular technology.
Egoísta, solo piensas en ti, egoísta. Odio seguir tus pasos como si fuera un fantasma, pero el día menos pensado te arrebataré el perfume. Me adueñaré de tu alma, egoísta. Para el hombre. Egoist Platinum para el hombre.
Budweiser.
Ericsson, perfecting the art of communication for over 120 years. Ericsson, leading the world in digital cellular technology.
Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshopper Zurich 0. That's the half-time scoreline here at Ibrox Stadium in this UEFA Champions League match from Group A on match day 5. Well, in these Arctic conditions, not too much tonight to keep the good-sized crowd who have braved the weather to come out to keep them warm. Let's have a look back at some of the highlights. The first one really in the 22nd minute, a great opportunity this for Grasshoppers. Andy Gorham, though, up with the big save.
Well, Comassetti's able to snap up this loosely headed clearance by Craig Moore. It comes right out to him at the edge of the box. He has to jump up to get the volley on it, and he almost finds the corner, but again, a sparkling save by Gorham.
Rangers came close from a set play from a corner. It was a header there from Ali McCoy, brilliantly saved by the goalkeeper.
Well, the first of a couple of frustrations for Richard Goff as he gets into a great position here to get this second header. He has the far side of the goal all open in front of him, and instead he manages to play it right to the keeper, Zuberbuehler.
And then from another corner, Richard Goff again very much involved. And this time McCoy with the flashing header over the top.
Well, impressive ability in the air by the Rangers players, and certainly a great run around the back by Goff to find himself wide open and to serve McCoy's. McCoy's just not able to glance it in, but those two chances could come back to haunt Rangers.
Well, Rangers dominated possession in the first half. They also managed one more shot, but really you can see from those statistics, it's a very evenly balanced game at the moment.
It was indeed. I have to say I'm impressed that Rangers finally started to look good in the attacking, and Grasshoppers have had three terrific wins in the Champions League. They've done very well beating Auxerre and Ajax and Rangers, and giving up only one goal in those three matches, Mike, and that was an own goal by Mats Gren, so defensively they'll be very tough.
Half-time then, Rangers 0, Grasshopper Zurich 0 when we return the second half kickoff.
ESPN takes you to the great outdoors. Grab a rod and reel and enjoy some of the best fishing in the world, or hit the trails and experience the thrill of the chase. Answer the call of the wild and learn the secrets of the game from some of the top sportsmen in the world. From out in the woods to out on the water. Get back to nature with ESPN.
The power and thrills. The speed and spills are all on ESPN's Motor World. Tune in every week for an in-depth look at the fast-paced world of motorcycle racing. Get up to date with all the latest on the track and off-road. Motor World is your ticket to the coolest sport on two wheels. Motor World, every week only on ESPN. Budweiser, la mejor razón en el mundo para tomar cerveza.
Comunicaciones para unir a la gente. AT&T, el punto de encuentro de todo el mundo.
Welcome back then to Ibrox as the players come out for the start of the second half. And Glasgow Rangers being given a great ovation. Glasgow Rangers supporters who are desperate to see their side do well in European competition. It's 0-0 here at half-time. And a quick check, Seamus. I don't think anybody's made any changes. The teams are as they started the first half.
Well, the fans have got to think that, given the way they played in the last 15 minutes, that this could be their best chance to get a win after 4 very disappointing evenings so far in the Champions League.
So there, the match day 6, the final day of action in the group stage of the Champions League. Grasshoppers will entertain Ajax, a team they've already beaten once, and Rangers will travel to France to take on Auxerre. Auxerre winning here at Ibrox. Now the match day 6 fixtures for Rangers that will be purely academic. For the other 3 teams, there's still a lot to play for. It will be Rangers who get the second half underway. They'll be attacking the goal to our right. I'm sure that Walter Smith, the manager, would have said to the Rangers to basically play the way they did in perhaps the last quarter of an hour of the first half. But they spring forward quickly. Craig Moore with the cross. That one's easily cut out there by Matt Scren. And the ball's just laid forward. Here's Esposito. Now Turklumas. Turklumas and cross goal that time was blocked. Tula on the overlap, playing it to the near post, and Goff there just letting that one bounce out of play. Seemed to be a bit of a confrontation there between Goff and Gorham.
Well, the ball comes off the Grasshoppers player, so it can't be a back pass, or at least the referee would hardly give a back pass there. But actually on the replay it looked almost as though it hit Goff, didn't it? And it should have been a corner.
You can see there the reaction from Gorham was to get the ball away. Didn't want to handle it in that situation. Scott Wilson trying to play that one down the line. A solid game at the heart of the Rangers defence as Scott Wilson.
Well, he's got quite a bit of useful help from Goff in particular in helping with Turklumas, and Turklumas has been pretty quiet in the last 15-20 minutes.
Alberts plays it wide. Robertson cutting in, and then the ball delivered across, leaving a lot to be desired.
That's the second or third time that's happened as Brain Trusk watches on here. But it was actually quite a useful cross because so many players had made near post runs that there was a huge space opened up in the back, but unfortunately for Rangers, nobody read it to get around the back on that right side.
First touch letting Charlie Miller down that time. Wilson plays it back to Gorham. Gorham's clearance there, straight out of play. Who also played with Hibs and West Bromwich Albion before becoming a bit of a cult hero here at Ibrox. Grasshoppers going the direct route straight down the centre. Gorham again, no problems with that one. Here's Cleland. And Vossen trying to turn. Janic, who brings him down.
Well, I think that's the first time you've called his name in this match, Mike. Janic has had virtually nothing to do in coming up to challenge players. Here comes Goff again.
Yes, he's gone forward. He's the target man. Zubabula So thank you very much for that free kick from Albert. A wasted opportunity.
Yeah, played much too close to goal and far too easy for the keeper to come and get unchallenged.
This player caught offside that time. People will tell you, Seamus, that the problem for Glasgow Rangers is only having really perhaps 4 or 5 hard matches in the Scottish season. That when they come up against European opposition, they do get outclassed because they can make mistakes against the Wraith Rovers and the Hibernians and the Hearts. They don't get punished for it. Whereas in European football, you make a mistake, you're punished, and that could be the end of the game.
Exactly, and in fact they made a number of mistakes in the first 20 minutes of this match, and luckily for them, Grasshoppers did not punish them because their counterattacks weren't as effective as they might be. And to be fair to Grasshoppers, they are missing 2 very key players who are the scoring threats, Moldovan and Yakin, both out with 2 yellow cards.
Vagner plays it forward. Goff just touches it back there for Gorham. Neatly played that time by Andy Gorham. And here come Rangers. Rangers, of course, missing Ryan Laudrup, who's such an inspirational player. Scored the only goal when Rangers beat Celtic last week. He's out with an injury, and Rangers now spring forward. Ball play behind the defence, and the offside flag goes up. Peter Van Vossen wanting that ball played a lot earlier from Cleland that time.
Well, I think he's right. You see the hesitation here by Cleland. He looks, and then he finally delivers because he was looking more centrally, actually. He was looking for a target closer to goal and just failed to notice Van Vossen making a nice penetrating run through the right side of the defence, and so the ball just came to him too late.
Quickly closed down. Hurts. Now Van Rossum. And coming across that time, Smiljanic.
Well, Van Vossen, having had a mediocre first half, is certainly doing the runs for them in the second half. And you've got to have some of those players doing the runs. Ali McCoist is not going to be able to do them all game long. So Van Vossen's got to do that role. And sometimes it's just as a decoy to stretch the defense a little bit and open up some space in the middle.
Here's Van Vossen. Mostly marked that time. And then a slip. There's Charlie Miller looked to play that one across the goal area. Just losing his foot in. Ibrox Stadium, which has been completely rebuilt in the last 15 years. Capacity, in fact, in this ground was 118,567. That's the ground record. That was against Celtic back in 1939. The capacity now just over 50,000. Looks like a crowd of over 30,000 here tonight.
Well, it's a beautiful new stadium. I was actually in this stadium a number of times in recent years, and the improvements are dramatic, as they are over at Parkhead. The Celtic, David Murray, the chairman, has big hopes for this club, has certainly invested a lot in getting quality players here, and too bad for Rangers tonight that so many of those quality players are not available through injury. But they certainly, even when they've had them, have I think no other way of saying it, but they've been outclassed by some of this opposition over this Champions League series.
They've been for the last 3 seasons. March 1993 was their last win in a Champions League match. They beat Bruges. They haven't won a game in the Champions League since. They have, of course, won qualification matches just to make it through to the Champions League. Pushing the back that time on Max Glenn.
McCoist They're trying to make the point that Gren took a dive there. Poised one of 4 players for Rangers who played in Euro 96. Gorham, Dury and McCall being the other 3. McCoy didn't see very much action until the final match when, as I said, he did get the goal against Switzerland.
NBA action here on ESPN. The Philadelphia 76ers against the Washington Bullets. There's a bullet there from Alberts, which goes just wide. The German international stepped forward that time and just couldn't quite get his shot on target.
Well, he's been in the center of the action, though. This is the impressive thing for Rangers. He's following up nicely here, and it's served up to him as a good run through from midfield, and that's what Rangers need. They can't just rely on the front runners and the occasion overlaps from the back. Alberts has got to come forward, and he did quite a good job trailing in there. Charlie Miller fills that role as well, with Craig Moore, as I mentioned, holding off a bit more in midfield and being a bit defensive.
Fritz wins the challenge in the air. And Moore is dispossessed. Free kick for Grasshoppers. And the free kick taken a bit too quickly there for the liking of our referee, Laszlo Vagner from Hungary. Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow, and that's the venue for this match day 5 Group A encounter from the Champions League. Along with Seamus Mullen, I'm Mike Hill, and as we come up towards the 10-minute mark in this second half, we're still looking for the opening goal. It's Glasgow Rangers 0, Grasshoppers Zurich 0. The Grasshoppers, a win would ensure them of a spot in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Rangers already eliminated, just playing for pride. And Petric that time has given a nudge as he went for that ball. A free kick now for the Scottish champions.
And of course a loss or even a draw for Grasshoppers. You see that replay with Petric and Gren tangling. A loss or a draw even would set up a final match, their home match, but it's no easy one against Ajax Amsterdam, and they too are in the thick of this race to qualify. So Grasshoppers certainly doesn't want to drop this one, but they would love to pick up 3 points here and virtually guarantee themselves a quarterfinal spot. An interesting turnaround for them, Mike, because last season they played 6 matches and didn't get 1 win in the Champions League.
I think they've learned a lot in those 12 months. Shun Gross, the manager, made the statement that playing in the Champions League is a lot different than playing in the domestic competition. He had a young side, an inexperienced side in European competition. But that they have learned a lot. As this one is laid back for Andy Gorham. Now Rangers. The ball away. Tackled from behind by Scott Wilson. He got away with that one. As this one is played over, and Gorham taking that one rather casually and very safely.
Well, they got away with that tackle from behind because the advantage fell to Grasshoppers, and it wasn't as physically damaging a tackle as it might have been. And the referee, I think quite rightly, made the judgment to continue to have Grasshoppers maintain possession, see if they could turn it into something.
Scott Wilson there with a misdirected clearance.
It's not been a night to show how to pass the ball, is it? Really decided. Put your children down and say, now this is how the ball is passed. This is not one of those nights. Look at there. That's another loose pass and poor piece of trapping attempted by David Robertson.
It's not a game for the connoisseurs. And the closest we've come to a goal is from a header from a defender. And perhaps that sums it up so far.
Absolutely.
Now Grasshoppers. This is Pascal Tula playing that one through. Well, the few Grasshoppers fans who have made the trip Switzerland. Just short in there for a penalty. The referee wasn't interested.
Great skill there. Wonderful by Alberts. I like him. That lovely touch in midfield.
It's he who spread the ball wide this time for Robertson, who cuts in. Well, perhaps the best move of the match so far from Glasgow Rangers started inside their own half, and Alberts was the player instrumental in that.
He was. He made a wonderful trap and flicked it over a defender and then set this play running. And Robertson does the right thing here. Everybody's marked up in front of him. You could see all those players tightly marked. And he went for the shot on goal. And there's the little bump, and down goes Magnin as we look at the replay from earlier action. But clearly no referee is going to give that. And least of all against Rangers in Ibrox, I would think. It's not going to happen. Shoulder to shoulder, Magnin made a bit of a meal of it.
Magnin turning that one back. Tour on the overlap, which looked so dangerous when he has come down this touchline. And that cross, nobody could get the touch for Grasshoppers. Richard Goff got it away for Glasgow Rangers.
But it was a very dangerous cross, however, because I think it was Turkmilmaz had ghosted in between the two defenders and the ball was just played over it.
Setting that time is the player who's penalised. So many of the players for Grasshoppers tonight wearing gloves to protect their hands against the cold. And that time using those gloves just to grab on to Cleland.
Yeah, the whistle had gone before that as that action continued. Once again, referee, I think, doing an exemplary job tonight. In fairness, has not had too many difficult decisions to make.
Losing out that time was Miller. Now Turkmilmaz. Turkmilmaz playing that one through. Comassetti. And the ball came loose, and Magnin there plays it wide. Magnin snapping at the shot, unable to get it on target.
Well, Turkmilmaz does ever so well to get that ball into the middle of that defence. Goff collapses on him nice, but this runs beautifully from Magnin from 18 yards out, and he really makes a hash of it, trying to shoot on goal. And that sort of tells us a little bit about how forwards have been performing at either end tonight. Not a great deal of polish in the finishing.
Moldovan out through suspension, scored 2 goals in their 3-1 victory over Auxerre on match day 4.
And in every European Champions League match in which Grasshoppers have scored a goal, either Moldovan or Yakin have contributed. So the loss of those two players, as we look at Vogel recovering from a challenge, the loss of those two players is key. Vogel is a player who's been very quiet tonight. Much expected of this young man. He had a great Euro 96, but he has not been a standout tonight.
Still only 19 years old, 10 international appearances already for Switzerland for Vogel, but as you say, it's been a bit lost in action tonight. Here come Glasgow Rangers. And that time they got players forward. And again, the final ball into the penalty area, leaving a lot to be desired. As Rawson is penalised.
Well, the final ball did leave a lot to be desired, Mike, and it's really kind of disappointing because as we look at the challenge again from from behind, and this time I think there is a little bit of a dive in there by Vogel, but all the good work was done on the build-up. I mean, the timing of the run, the accuracy and the weight of the pass. There's another loose pass, this time by Grasshoppers. But having made that terrific run and then the intelligent cutback and with some good options in front, the final ball was just really pretty atrocious.
Grasshoppers have Jan Berger warming up on the sideline. Youngster who looks like he might be coming in. There he is, just 20 years old.
Oh, he looks like he's about 17.
We're assured that he's 20. And his only other appearance in the Champions League was on match day 3. 1-0 loss for Auxerre. He came on in that game as a substitute. And it looks like now he's going to get his chance in this one as well. Turkmilmaz. Not the most popular player with the Rangers supporters. And you can hear the reaction.
Wonderful defense by Richard Goff. An aging warrior, but still a very, very tough and savvy defender. Not being fooled by Turki Yilmaz's ability on shielding the ball or by Turki Yilmaz's strength on the ball. He just absolutely outmuscles him.
Esposito. Grasshoppers. Great challenge that time, but the referee tries to play the advantage. Glasgow Rangers themselves fail to take advantage of that. And now the referee is going to have a word with the player from Grasshoppers who committed that foul. As Burton comes on, Jan Berger, Comassetti is the player that goes off.
Well, that's a good substitution, I think. We'll see what Berger is able to perform. But Comassetti, apart from that one jumping volley on goal when he got the header at the top of the box, has really not been a force in midfield. He's made a couple of good overlapping runs occasionally, but they need something more in midfield. They're losing the battle in midfield at the moment.
Forward that time, and Turki Yilmaz is penalised. English Premier League live on Monday. It's Notts Forest against Blackburn Rovers, two teams at the bottom of the Premier League, and both teams really in need of 3 points and a victory. Both have only won once in the league this season. That's the English Premier League live on Monday here on ESPN. And here in the Champions League, it is still no score. Glasgow Rangers also looking to perhaps make a substitution. That was Eric Bo Anderson. He's been warming up now for some time, the Danish international player. He's in fact just coming back after a hand injury. And a good run that time by Van Vossum. Trying to play that one through, appeals for handball. The referee points to the spot.
Well, Van Vossum tried what had to be a very low percentage attempt, that is to squeeze the ball between two players, and let's see what happens here. He's going to put it between them, and one of them, the number 3 player, Pascal Tuller, definitely reaches out. It hits his hand, and we have a penalty.
And Ali McCoist looking for his first goal in the Champions League in 4 years. Has the responsibility of taking this penalty. Gascoigne missed one last week. He's out of this game through suspension. So McCoist. He scores!
Well, we always said that the Rangers looked the most dangerous on set pieces, and there's no more high percentage opportunity on a set piece than the penalty kick. They got the PK, and McCoist deceives the keeper a little bit with his run and slides it into the corner. But a bit of a rough break for Grasshopper, who have looked fairly strong in defense, and an unfortunate handball by Pascal Tuller as Van Vossum tried to get through. Gives the penalty kick, and finally Rangers have a lead in the Champions League.
Came in the 67th minute. McCoist the goal scorer. Glasgow Rangers 1, Grasshoppers Zurich 0. And Grasshoppers now have a corner. Ali McCoist, the hero of Ibrox. And now he comes back to help to defend the lead that he's given his side. So you've got to face this corner. Max Gren has come forward. And the referee going across. I think he's going to give Demands the yellow card.
A very strange decision. Turkilmaz clearing some debris out of the way for his run to the corner. I mean, the last thing in the world that Grasshoppers want is to waste time. They need to get back in the game to accuse him of time wasting.
The worst thing is, though, for Turkilmaz, that yellow card now means that he will miss the next game on match day 6, his second yellow card of the Champions League. And now Rangers. A trip that time from Brent Haas on Charlie Miller. And that's another yellow card. And Brent Haas now, his second yellow card of the Champions League, so he's out of the next game as well.
Well, Grasshoppers just falling apart here in their self-discipline. That goal has really rattled them, obviously. And 2 yellow cards in the 69th minute. And as you mentioned, 2 players who have to miss. They will have, of course, returning to them, Moldovan and Yakin, so that helps them up top. But that's a tough loss for them at the back, and Haas, who's a very promising young player.
Now Rangers, Alberts is trying to keep possession that time. Esposito got there first. His clearance, though, straight to Craig Moore. And Rangers able to get that one across. Ahead of their aim for Ali McCoist. It was too high for him. This is Ibrox Stadium in Glasgow, UEFA Champions League here on ESPN. Match day 5. Ali McCoist from the penalty spot has given Glasgow Rangers the lead. The goal coming in the 67th minute. It's Glasgow Rangers 1. Grasshopper Zurich 0. Seamus Mullen, I'm Mike Hill. And Glasgow Rangers now getting the support of the crowd that's been announced at just over 34,192 to be exact, that have braved these conditions. The game kicks off, it was -3 degrees Celsius. It might even be a degree lower than that now.
Well, Richard Goff is just everywhere in the defense. We saw him going forward to get some heading opportunities on goal, but he has been winning headers defensively. There's another one, and his distribution with his headed clearances and with his soft passing out of the back has been terrific for Rangers. He's my Rangers man of the match so far. McCoist with a goal, obviously, but that a penalty kick, and nobody else up front or in the midfield has really been shining for Rangers, but Richard Goff has had one of his best matches for Rangers.
He's led the team inspirationally, the Rangers captain. Remember, they came into this game with a number of key players out. And in the last 24 hours have lost Bjorklund and also Brian Laudrup through injury. Michigan Gross, the coach of Grasshoppers.
Well, the Laudrup loss was huge, Mike, because that's the kind of player that can take advantage of little spaces in the Grasshoppers' defense that McCoy simply has been unable to do. And really that Van Vossen has been unable to do until he made that good run to the penalty area that drew the penalty.
Now the shot, and Zumabula there got his body behind the ball. Van Vossen was the player shooting from just on the edge of that penalty area. And Fogel that time trying to come forward. He finishes up on the deck. Albert slides this one through McCoist.
McCoist wide open as he gets his ball and plays it right between the legs of Zuberbühler. But you've got to ask, where is the central defense of Grasshoppers at this point? Look at him, absolutely wide open as he finds the seam in the defense. But give a lot of credit to Charlie Miller, Mike, on that one, because he was the one who made the crunching tackle in midfield, as we see the finish once again. But Miller was the one who won possession in midfield, putting a crunching tackle on Johan Vogel, and then setting up the swift counterattack. And McCoist, as I said earlier, he had not been finding the openings. He had been marked very tightly, but he ghosted into the middle of the defense. Gren lost him, Smiljanic lost him, and he punished them.
McCoy's got a yellow card for celebrating, but more dramas here as the referee has actually pointed to the penalty spot. Well, it's all happening here at Ibrox. Grasshoppers have been given a penalty.
Oh, Petric just ghosting behind, and it seemed to me that he was just standing there. I don't think that was a penalty at all. There was no challenge in the back. It was simple, just posting up on him, and over he went. He lost his own footing, and incredibly a penalty given.
Andy Gorham saved one last week against Celtic. Max Gren is the penalty taker for Grasshoppers. And Gorham comes up big. Andy Gorham, the hero.
Yeah, well, he certainly knew exactly where Gren was going. And here comes the continued action here. This is fast and furious now around the Rangers' goal. But tremendous save by Gorham. You said he managed to frustrate Van Hooydonk from Holland and Celtic, and now he's frustrated Gren from Sweden and Grasshopper. So he takes on all comers, no matter where they come from in Europe. Not a well-taken penalty, to be fair. Was not drilled low to the corner or high to the corner. And he guessed right. And it's a 2-0 lead still for Rangers.
Here's Van Vossen. As he tries to play that one through. Alberts again had made the run through the centre-forward channel. So just let's recap, because Ali McCoist got his second goal. He took his shirt off to celebrate. The referees actually gave him a yellow card. And then the other end, another controversial decision. This time a penalty, but that's been stopped by Andy Gorham. And it's Glasgow Rangers leading here by 2 goals to 0. The man of the moment, Andy Gorham, organised his defence as he's got to now face this free kick.
Well, here's a chance for Trick Yilmaz to get back into that. He certainly did a nice job of acting or falling over in the box and drawing the penalty kick. A poor decision. But sometimes there's a higher authority at work here. And the penalty loosely given was well saved by Gorham.
Esposito curling that one across, and again Gorham comes up big to deny Esposito. And one in the crowd at Ibrox is singing "There's only one Andy Gorham."
Wow, what a great one-handed save. That was going into the corner with just a little bit more swerve and speed. It would have beaten Gorham, but he had to come all the way over and get it.
Twice trying to get the ball clear. Appeals for handball. It wasn't given, and Jan Berger, the player who came on as a substitute in the 64th minute, pulls one back for Grasshoppers.
Well, the ball, obviously all kinds of confusion in the defense here. Berger getting wide open. Was there a handball or not? You see the hands go up, but not so. And Berger just in the right spot, ghosting around the back of the defense. Nobody saw him, and it was too late. And give him credit for a great execution of volleying the ball home. Now that one is a handball on Esposito, but the last one, I think it might have been on Gren. As we look at Berger off the bench and getting Grasshoppers back into this thing. Wow, this game has really come to life in the last few minutes.
Well, Andy Gorham beaten at long last, but this was his save from the penalty taken by Max Gren. Marvellous save that by Andy Gorham. And he was beaten by Jan Berger, who gets his first ever goal in European competition. The player who came on as a substitute. 2-1 then to Glasgow Rangers. And less than 13 minutes left to play. Ball flicked on that time by Esposito. Gorham with the clearance. That time just bouncing away from Alberts. This is Vogel. channel goes directly through the centre forward channel. Tielemans again is the player who is penalised. Telling the referee that Glasgow Rangers are time wasting. Of course, he's already been given the yellow card for time wasting, which at the time we thought was a strange decision with his side trailing. Here come the Grasshoppers. This is Brent Huss. Ball to Glasgow Rangers as Grasshoppers look to make a second substitution. And this is Nesta Subiat, who's going to come on, the Swiss international. 15 appearances for Switzerland, 5 goals in those 15 appearances. And he's preparing to come on. And I think it might be Johan Vogel who's the player that's going to go off. In all honesty, one would have to say that he has been a bit of a disappointment. He arrived here with a big reputation, and he's really been like the invisible man out there in this game so far.
Well, Subiat certainly an older player, very experienced, as we see Vogel come off. Yeah, Vogel had his debut at 15 years of age and 4 months, so he is very young. He's in the first team at age 16. Got a lot to play for yet, but Subiat is just the kind of player you love to have come off the bench. When people's emotions are riding high, he's very calm.
His corner for Grasshoppers, played to the far post, away there by Craig Moore. Albert. Player in chase there is Smiljanovic. And Albert plays it through, and McCoist and Van Vossen between them. Caught offside.
A great rush again out of the back by Alberts. Instead of just thumping it forward, he makes a wonderful dribble out of the back. Now, this looked very, very marginal to me when he played it through.
And then at the other end, Tielemans can't get there before Scott Wilson.
Well, this is end-to-end action now, Mike. There's none of this sort of deliberate passing through midfield that we saw.
Well, Eric Bo Anderson has been warming up for the majority of the second half. He is going to come on now with some 9 minutes left to play, and Peter Van Bossum is the player that's going to go off. So Eric Bo Anderson, back from a hand injury, comes on, the Danish international. And Peter Van Vossen is the player that goes off. Eric Bo Anderson, who we saw last year playing in the Champions League for Aalborg. Throw taken and some pushing that time, which results in a free kick. Now stay with us here on ESPN, because coming up next, Champions League action continues from Group A. Ajax Amsterdam against Auxerre of France, and of course the winner of that game most probably will be assured of a quarter-final spot. It's very, very tight, this Group A, and the leaders starting on match day 5. Grasshoppers find themselves trailing here to a team who hadn't won, and a team who are certainly out of calculation, Glasgow Rangers. As Bo Anderson there is dispossessed, and then has a little kick out at the player who dispossessed him. A bit of pushing and shoving in back play, which hasn't been spotted by the referee.
And this man, Richard Goff, we mentioned, who have done so well. There have been only one really major defensive lapse by Rangers, and that was when they gave up the winning goal, but they just looked a little bit loose and had not marked Berger. But Goff's been great, and Alberts, number 3, has been terrific for Rangers. I think he's a superb addition to this team, as we see Pascal Tuller's cross looked like an 83rd minute cross by an overlapping fullback. Put in a lot of work, but not quite accurate, a little bit tired.
The thing is that since the Grasshoppers went 2-0 down, they have really resorted to playing what can only be described as a typical Scottish game of throwing players forward. And of course, this is like bread and butter to Glasgow Rangers. They can play that type of game all day long and are going to be very, very good and competitive at it.
Absolutely. They've struggled when coming up against defenses such as these midfield players who fill in the gaps very well and leave nothing for counterattacks. There's a very nasty late challenge by Smiljanic on number 16, Charlie Miller. Smiljanic lucky not to get a card on that one. And Charlie Miller showing great composure and not retaliating. But you're right, when the action gets fast and furious and there's long balls being hit around the park, that plays right into the kind of week in, week out thing that Rangers have to deal with. They themselves have put the ball on the floor very nicely and have not resorted to the long ball at all.
Off again, going forward and winning that challenge in the air. Betts. No way forward that time. Grasshoppers. Lombardo. Play that behind the defence. It was one intercepted by Petric. And then Robertson. Never get too much distance with that clearance. So throw for the Swiss champions. Just over 5 minutes to play. They trail here by 2 goals to 1. Played in, and it came off the head of Goff, and that deflection from Goff just took it away from Turkiomas. Rangers there really caught out doing what they do so well. That's getting behind the defence and going via the aerial route. This is the Champions League from Ibrox. McCoist has got 2 for Rangers. Berger has scored for Grasshoppers. With just over 5 minutes left to play, Glasgow Rangers 2, Grasshoppers Zurich 1. With Seamus Mullen, I'm Mike Hill. Rangers being roared on by this crowd of over 34,000 as they go searching for yet another goal. Here's McCoist, opportunity there for his hat-trick, but the opportunity so quickly closed down. And the player who scored for Grasshoppers, Berger, is the player who denies McCoist his 3rd goal.
Well, Berger sees the danger, almost reacts a bit too late, but comes over to stop that shot. McCoist knows that that was a chance that he should put away that he normally puts away. But still, it's Rangers banging on the door here, looking for number 3.
And the shot that time is way off target. Ali McCoist, whose tally now for the season in all competitions is 12 goals, with those 2 tonight. And although this certainly will not help Rangers qualify for the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
For a game that was really lacking opportunities for goal scoring. In a period of 10 minutes between the 67th and the 77th minute, we had 3 goals and a saved penalty kick. The game just came to action almost as though somebody said from upstairs, all right, action, roll the cameras, let's go. And all of a sudden everything broke out.
Andy Gorham made the clearance, and Nelly McCoist there. The 2 heroes for Rangers tonight as that one is played through. But this will give Rangers their first points in the Champions League for this season, as Alberts tries to increase the scoreline, and he was also trying to look for Ali McCoist waiting at the far post unmarked.
Well, he certainly embarrassed Berger by stealing that ball from him in the penalty area, at the edge of the penalty area when Berger was making the run out. Bad decision by Berger, well stripped by Alberts, who, as I said, has had a terrific match.
Well, the ball played across and too far ahead there of McCoist.
Well, I think the game as we take a look at this again, you see he tries to play the ball out, very loose pass on Alberts. Now look at McCoist, wide open, and you look at it again, it seems that Alberts decided he might squeeze it in at the near post after all. That cross didn't have as much swerve on it on the replay as it seemed to when we saw it initially. But I think the whole game sort of shifted dramatically on that handball decision. Once that handball decision was given against Tuller, then the penalty kick was taken. Then that totally changed what Grasshoppers had to do. They had to take some more risks. They desperately needed a point. Certainly a win would help, but a draw minimally. And that opened up the spaces for McCoist.
Those 2 goals from McCoist not only will give Rangers their first points of the Champions League. If they can survive the next 2 minutes, it will also give them a $500,000 win bonus as well. And the teams do get rewarded for points. As Walter Smith, the manager, looks down from up high. I'm sure he's feeling a lot better now. Stay with us here on ESPN. We'll have our post-match wrap coming up. And we'll look back at the goals from Ali McCoist. And of course, the save from Andy Gorham. As McCoist there is fouled. No wonder he's got a smile on his face. He loves scoring goals. 354 goals now in first-class competition for Glasgow Rangers, with those two tonight.
McCoy smiling because you could see there what he did. He obviously played the ball between his legs and still drew the foul. And I guess the rumors of Ali McCoist being through as a professional soccer player are somewhat exaggerated. Having a vintage season. And this man has had a terrific match. 2 players on him. He still manages with a little back flick to get away from both of them, and they have to foul him as he runs through to pick it up.
Come up towards the last 30 seconds, this free kick. A clearance only as far as Charlie Miller, and a misdirected pass. Now Grasshoppers looking to break quickly. Jan Berger. And the challenge there from Petric, I think. Referee though. Letting play continue. Or has he? No, he's pulling it back now. And Petric's name, in fact, is going in the referee's notebook. So a yellow card for Gordon Petric for that rash challenge. As we're now playing stoppage time. Esposito. Everybody going forward for Grasshoppers, but the ball not reaching the Rangers penalty area. Now McCoist. And Esposito got there first. Another challenge, just getting their foot in, the Rangers players. Here's Bo Anderson. Good pace there from the substitute. Going down. And Eric Bo Anderson can't believe it. Walter Smith's on his feet as well.
Well, that look, on the first look, and he had the most decisive penalty call that could be given, although he does seem to touch it there, and on the second look, he did get a touch on the ball, the defender did, and over he went.
The final whistle has gone, and Ali McCoist is the hero of Ibrox. A penalty in the 67th minute, a second goal in the 73rd minute, and then Jan Berger pulling one back for Grasshoppers. But those Rangers supporters tonight will go home happy. They'll be talking Ali McCoist. They'll also be talking about Andy Gorham. Glasgow Rangers 2, Grasshoppers 0-1. That's how it finished. We'll have highlights when we return.
Egoísta, solo piensas en ti, egoísta. Odio seguir tus pasos como si fuera un fantasma, pero el día menos pensado te arrebataré el perfume. Me adueñaré de tu alma, egoísta.
Para el hombre.
Egoísta Platinum para el hombre.
Budweiser, la mejor razón en el mundo para tomar cerveza.
Ask anyone to draw a star. Most of the time you'll see this. Perceptions can be misleading. It's time to take a good look at the new Hyundai. Reality exceeds expectations. Hyundai.
Pedro está aprendiendo lo fácil que es usar una Macintosh. El padre de Pedro también trabaja con una Macintosh. Y eso es importante, porque así a su padre le da más tiempo para estar con él.
So there's Ali McCoist, the real hero for Glasgow Rangers with those 2 goals. He gives Glasgow Rangers a 2-1 victory over Grasshoppers, their first win in this season's Champions League. And this big crowd here at Ibrox standing to applaud Rangers as they go off. So a memorable victory. Let's have a look back at some of the second half highlights. Perhaps the turning point came in the 66th minute.
Yes, when Pascal Tiller was adjudged to have handled this ball as when Boston tried to go between 2 defenders. Bit of a bad break there, but it gives McCoist the chance for the penalty.
McCoist sends the goalkeeper the wrong way. Ibrox erupts. Rangers ahead by a goal to 0. And then in the 73rd minute, it was McCoist again.
And McCoist finally getting some space to operate in as the Grasshoppers have to come out and attack, and a great ball through from Alberts finds him totally open, and he slots it between the keeper's legs to give a 2-0 lead to Rangers.
Well, that made it 2-0. McCoist got a yellow card for over celebrating, and then at the other end, a very soft penalty. Turklemaz is the player that goes down.
Well, yes, and we could see in the replay that he did simply fall over. There was no real physical contact there, so Matt Scran has a chance to narrow the lead. And he fails to make it as Gorham once again makes a spectacular penalty save. And the captain is frustrated by this one. Scran cannot beat him.
Eddie Gorham there, a brilliant save that time. But there again, even Gorham couldn't stop that one in the 77th minute as Jan Berger, who come on as a substitute, puts that one away.
Well,
slack marking.
And Matt Scran kept that one alive. In fact, having missed the penalty, he makes up for it a little bit by serving this great ball over to Berger, and Berger slots it home.
So look then at the final statistics, and Glasgow Rangers shading Grasshoppers there on the shots and in the possession.
Yes, and the game really coming to life in the second half when Rangers finally managed to find the passing combinations that have been just missing so much in the first half, and the Grasshopper defense, which looked so strong, finally began to crack when they had to go forward and counter-attack.
So Grasshoppers stay top of Group A, but of course they've lost that game. Rangers get their first point. Ajax against Auxerre, well, their game now is going to have a big bearing on this Group A. Ajax, if they win, can pretty much assure themselves of a spot in the quarterfinals. But if Auxerre were to win, well, that really makes the group even tighter at the top. And you can see that game coming up next. That's Ajax Amsterdam against Auxerre. You'll be able to see that game from the Amsterdam Arena as ESPN's coverage of the Champions League continues. But tonight, it was a night that belonged to Glasgow, as they say. Andy Gorham came up with the big save. Ali McCoist came up with the goals when it really mattered. Glasgow Rangers get their first victory in the Champions League this season as they overcome Grasshoppers of Zurich by 2-1. Seamus Mullen, I'm Mike Hill for ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Program was brought to you by Amstel Beer, an official sponsor of the UEFA Champions League.